The Alfa Romeo 8C is one of the most achingly beautiful modern designs in the automotive world. With 444 horsepower, only about 90 came to the United States. Only 500 were built worldwide, and today I get to enjoy one. Come enjoy it with me.
Come on, go!
My name's Tim. I'm a musician, a car collector, an automotive journalist, and a lover of all things automotive. I've bought and sold collectible cars for 2 decades, and I hope my experiences and my point of view helps you find the car of your dreams. Alfa Romeo, Ferrari, and Maserati are all inextricably linked. This car comes from what I would consider to be the golden era of cooperation between Maserati, Alfa Romeo, and Ferrari. Blessed with what might well be one of the best versions of the F136 V8 with a 4.7-liter displacement, this car is right in every way that you want a bespoke coupe to be right. Pretty much if you were lucky enough to get an allocation for one of these, you could spec it out with leather like this, pretty much anything you wanted in terms of coloration, leather texture, those sorts of things. Going back to that cooperation between Maserati, Ferrari, and Alfa Romeo, the transmission, actually the chassis, a lot of this car shares a good bit with the Maserati coupe, the 4200 and later Gran Turismo, which was actually being designed while this car was being designed. So the 4.7 is shared with that later Gran Turismo, albeit in a slightly different spec. This transmission shifts in 175 milliseconds, and as you'll hear later, I love it. I absolutely love it. I actually think it's one of the assets of this car. The Alfa Romeo 8C is the dream of many of ours, and I think anyone who owns a Grand Sport likely has thought to themselves, boy, I'd love to drive an 8C. And my friend has invited me to drive his car, and just following him for the last 30 minutes, oh, the sound. If you love the Grand Sport, this car takes that and refines it in a way that's, oh, it is perfect. I'm a fan of this transmission in the Grand Sport. You know, many people aren't. This shifts every bit as quick as a Grand Sport, maybe quicker. The engine is just that much more angry. So immediate. You know, a lot of people said they don't like the way this car handles. It's much stiffer. The roll bars are much stiffer. The suspension tuning is much stiffer. I actually really like it. I mean, I don't know, you know, everybody's different. Everybody's different. But this would be how I would want it set up. Now, I haven't really tossed it in hard enough yet to know. I don't know, it's great. And you can feel that slightly shorter. Oh, this is a serious, yeah, it's great. Yeah, you would be hard-pressed to fault this car. You know, it's an absolutely amazing car. As far as production numbers, this particular car, my friend Afshin bought it new. And so the plaque in the middle of the car here has his name on it. It's a Canyon Carver. It's a Canyon Carver. If I had to compare it to something, I mean, stock, I don't know, there's not much. you can get. Wheelbase, you know, it's shorter and more immediate in feel than an E46. Let's really lean on it here. Boy. And the tuning on the engine is a little more progressive, I think, maybe? I don't know, maybe not. Talking. I realize I'm actually not able to talk. It's not like, you know, it's not like crazy next level acceleration, but it's all the acceleration you want, really. I mean, especially on a canyon road like this, man, this is just perfect. And the way it just over the limit is beautiful, just like in the Grand Sport. The rear end feels very similar to a Grand Sport. It's quick. I mean, it's... Sorry, like literally, I just passed my son and the owner of the car, both grinning. It's just, you know, limited edition. This particular car, this is like, I don't know what would be better. Honestly, it was fairly, you know, I wouldn't say it was affordable when new, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't $1 million like this new, you know, $1.5 million. This is what a special edition, limited edition car should be. This thing is incredible. You know, it just does. It's the soul of Alfa Romeo distilled into a car that you can buy and enjoy. And it has that. You know, the best cars have that sort of. If I drove this car this hard all day through the canyons, would it survive? Absolutely. This car could be your canyon weapon, and you'd enjoy it every day more than the next. I like the somewhat, I wouldn't say humble beginnings of the car, but in a way, what we love about cars from true coach builders, like Zagato and like Touring and the greats, this car does. They took a car that existed, a platform that existed, and refined it and took it to the next level. And I mean, it is at the next level. This car is every bit of, you know, what you'd want from a hand-built sort of one-off special. And it's limited edition enough that, you know, you've got a car, these have never depreciated. They've only appreciated. I think it's absolutely one of the best. I wouldn't say value. I don't know if it's a value, but it's a great car. It's an absolutely. This car is incredible in every way that you want one of these to be incredible. It is that. Was released in 2008 and it feels contemporary. You know, in terms of size, if you think about what you wish the new M2 drove like, you'd want it to drive like this. The engine's a cross-plane crank, just like in the Grand Sport Gran Turismo, but man, whatever they did with the, you know, you want to ride outside it almost. Just listen to it from behind, because the exhaust tuning is absolutely delectable. Listen. myself going in spurts of not talking, and I apologize. But it is that good, this car is. And it's not, again, you know, everyone's like, wow, is it, you know, the 0 to 60 time? What? It doesn't matter. The brakes are great. A little later to bite, maybe, than the Grand Sport. But boy, is it good. As far as cars that I've driven recently from this era, you know, there was, I wouldn't say there was negative press, but, you know, this car, there were demerits given. And I just don't know if it deserves any demerits. It's such a unique car. It's such that one-off body style sort of special. It's just, I mean, how can you give it demerits? It's absolutely one of a kind and one of the best cars overall, all around, I think, that I've ever driven. I mean, it's just so well-rounded. Is, you know, how does it compare to a Grand Sport? It's better. The wheelbase is perfect. What would I change about it? I mean, I don't know. Like, do I think it needs more power? Not really. No, it's great. I love how the torque curve is so pure. So I don't know. I love it. I love that it's got that Ferrari, Maserati, Alfa Romeo. I mean, it very much feels like, you know, that engine. The F136 roots are apparent. It's the best version of it I've ever driven, and I've driven the Gran Turismo latest version. I've driven, obviously I've owned a bunch of Grand Sports and 4200s, and this is just like refinement. The steering rack, I need to look it up. The steering rack is definitely quicker, and that's nice. And maybe not even quicker, but the bushings and everything connected to the suspension is just, I mean, it's really good. So, yeah, this road is a pleasure. I mean, seriously, this is some of the best, these roads. When it comes to lucky, there may be no one more lucky than me on this day. A decade ago, or more, by far one of the best YouTube channels or any content, one of the most emotive, evocative pieces of content was Petrolicious. I awaited the next Petrolicious video like you couldn't imagine. I mean, it was the best. I mean, you know, and I don't think you'll be surprised for me to say that. Petrolicious was absolutely the best in automotive content. Afshin's been a great friend for years now, and he's a beautiful soul, very thoughtful soul. It's just incredible that in the climate that we find ourselves in, because he had an opinion that wasn't popular, that he was a racist, and he got canceled, and they took his channel. It's the most heartbreaking thing that ever happened in the automotive industry. Unjust. And that's it. This is his car. I count it an absolute gift that he's my friend. And it is an absolute loss to the automotive community that we've been deprived of Petrolicious videos, Petrolicious content, because we can't have different opinions. We can't think for ourselves. And I try not to get political, but this is an absolute injustice that was thrust upon him and upon the automotive community. I hope we can make it right. I hope Afshin one day gets Petrolicious back and creates amazing content for us all to enjoy. make no mistake, he's a beautiful mind. I remember reading in tears the headlines of my friend being ravaged by people that couldn't think of anything better to say than curse words in a headline to further their career with negativity. So all this negativity comes from a small mind. But I'm not going to leave it here. I'm not going to leave it on the negative, because this car is amazing, just like Petrolicious and Afshin. They're great, and we can celebrate all of those things. Interestingly, as I come away from this car, I think a couple have just sold recently at auction, and they're still kind of in that $250,000 to $275,000 range, and I think that that's actually a pretty good deal for this car. Now, in terms of does it drive closer to the Grand Sport or the Gran Turismo, upon which it's loosely based, it reminds me a lot more of if the M3 was the Grand Sport. It's kind of like a hybrid of those cars. The Gran Turismo has a 116-inch wheelbase compared with the Grand Sport Spider that has a 96-inch wheelbase. I was assuming that this car would share a wheelbase with it. Shockingly, in fact, it's like 0.4 inches off the 4200 Cambia Corsa Grand Sport Coupe wheelbase. So essentially 104 inches. Whereas the M3, that E46 M3, comes in at 107 inches. And I think wheelbase and spring rates and those sorts of things play a big role in how this car handles so beautifully, combined with that glorious engine sound from the Ferrari-derived F136 engine is really kind of the story of the Alfa Romeo 8C. It's an absolutely wonderful car. It's extremely rare, and you'd be absolutely fortunate to have one in your car collection. Maybe one day I'll be that fortunate. Stay tuned and let's see.